This video is going to be a reaction to Caitlin Johnstone's most recent piece here. For those who don't know, Caitlin Johnstone is someone I would describe as more of a populist left type. Of course, labels are dangerous, but that's the vibe. This isn't a populist right. So let's just say that. Caitlin Johnstone is a woman, and you'll hear a voice here that I'm going to play from the article that reads the article. That's her husband, Tim Foley. So Caitlin Johnstone, that's my understanding of it. Caitlin Johnstone is really a woman, but she just does the writing, and her husband co-authors some of it and reads it. So that's why it will sound weird. I'm saying Caitlin, and you're going to hear a man's voice. Caitlin's most recent article talks about the kayfabe populism. My impression from this term kayfabe that I've never heard before, it's like fake. It's just a fancy way of saying fake or fugazi populism. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. So Caitlin Johnstone's premise here is that if you support the MAGA movement, you're supporting a fake opposition. And I take umbrage with that. I'm open to being wrong. But what Caitlin Johnstone does is, Caitlin Johnstone's on the populist left. And my impression is this is so harmful. Caitlin is afraid to agree with the populist right for whatever reason, and afraid to give them any type of credit. So when you look at the article, how she didn't bring up any of these articles, these people in this article directly, but she used the faces of Bernie, Trump, Cenk, and Tucker to say these are all fake opposition. What Caitlin doesn't understand is these are all mascots. These people that you see in front of us right now, they're mascots. Politicians, all mascots. And Caitlin says the oligarchy is controlling all of them. Well, Caitlin, there's always going to be a battle between the oligarchy and the people. That's always going to happen. It's been happening since the beginning of time. It will never stop. The people outnumber the oligarchy. So for these mascots out here, why aren't the people controlling them? Caitlin Johnstone is a part of that problem. And this is what it really gets me upset about the populist left. And anyone on the right, too, that wouldn't support a populist left candidate. So let me give you an example before I play this article and kind of react to it. There's a guy who's running for Congress, and his name is Marcel Dixon.
Hey y'all, Greg Marcel Dixon here. You probably heard of me. Candidate for South Carolina's 6th Congressional District. Yep, I'm that reparations guy, and I'm a Democrat. Now those may not be your key issues, but let's talk about some things that are important to you. Do you believe that the Second Amendment right of all law-abiding citizens should be protected? I am a concealed weapons permit holder by the state of South Carolina, and I will fight to protect your Second Amendment rights throughout this entire nation. But what about the right to life? You can believe that I will fight to protect all beating hearts. Do you feel that illegal immigration is a crime and should be treated as such, as we do with all crimes? So do I. So even though we may not agree on everything, I am sure we agree on a lot of the issues which are important.
And Marcel Dixon is running in South Carolina. He's running against Jim Clyburn. I support Marcel Dixon over Jim Clyburn, but Marcel Dixon is pro-reparations. I don't need to agree with everybody on something to support them. I support him because he is a real candidate against a corporate candidate. We all don't agree on everything, Caitlin. And what you're going to hear is Caitlin has this purity test to filter out these mascots. So Tucker is a fake opposition. But Caitlin, you agree with Tucker on Ukraine. So what's the point of saying he's fake opposition instead of saying Tucker's right on Ukraine? Because you don't want to be associated with Tucker. Because there might be other things Tucker says that you don't agree with. How are we ever going to topple the oligarchy if there's a purity test that we have to agree with somebody 100% of the time? I could say, Marcel, I don't agree with you on reparations, but there are other things. Marcel is pro 2A. I agree with you on pro 2A. And these other things too. Let me play some of this article to give you a taste of what I mean, of this kayfabe populism. And Caitlin Johnstone's a great writer. But this is gunk. This is a very trash piece. Not poorly written. It's trash based on the theory. The thesis is trash.
Kayfabe populism. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. It's so important that the public have no real say in U.S. politics that the empire not only set up two oligarchic puppet parties which pretend to oppose each other, but also set up fake populist movements within each of those factions which pretend to be fighting the establishment within those parties.
So this is projection, because what you're mad about, Caitlin, is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bowman, Ayanna Pressley, all of them, they're fake and they've been proven to be fakes. What you're mad about is Marjorie Taylor Greene has not been proven to be a fake. And Caitlin has never, in any of the writings I've read about Caitlin, has never brought up specific reasons why Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the true face of MAGA, not Trump. Caitlin doesn't even understand that. Has never brought that up. So what you're mad about is that you don't have someone in there to represent you. But the right does. They're trying to start a movement, and what Caitlin's doing is lumping the fake progressives in with MAGA. Don't do that. You can disagree with MAGA on points, but then you can also give them credit where you agree on.
It's a very clever illusion that sucks up almost all real opposition. If you don't fall for the first kayfabe conflict and realize the game is rigged for the powerful, you can still end up buying into the fake populist movements set up to oppose them. I fell for them both early on in this commentary gig. But after a while of watching what they do, as opposed to just listening to what they say, and seeing where they actually stand and fight or refuse to fight, you see it's all an Inception-level fakery. The opposition is controlled, and so is the opposition to the opposition. It's like when you dream you're waking up from a dream, but you're actually in another dream. You awaken from the liberals versus conservatives puppet show, and then turn to the fake progressive Democrats or the bullshit MAGA camp as a solution, but you're still asleep. This all sounds like an awful lot of work.
I challenged Caitlin on this. And I'm open to being wrong. I am always open to being wrong. And I tweeted at Caitlin and I said, well, MAGA is the most, Caitlin is anti-war. So I'm like, let's take the anti-war stuff. MAGA is the most anti-war movement out there. The strongest anti-war movement out there. There's people in DC anti-war against Russia, Ukraine, and anti-war with China too. Even though there might be different arguments on that, and that might have to happen, they're still anti the war. They don't want that to happen. That's why they say America first. Let's be self-sufficient so we don't have to worry about these wars for resources as much. So there's a real movement with MAGA. I tweeted at Caitlin about that. And Caitlin responded with more nonsense, like, you're in the dream, you need to awaken from the dream. What does that mean, Caitlin? That's just abstract. You need to awaken from the dream. That's happening to your side. You're just mad that I can say the progressive lefts are fake. There's no real progressive left movement in Washington, D.C. And you're just mad that that's true. And you project that fakeness onto the populist right.
Bullshit MAGA camp as a solution, but you're still asleep. This all sounds like an awful lot of work to go through until you remember that an entire globe-spanning empire depends on the ability to prevent the American public from either A, voting in a disruptive government, or B, fighting a revolution. So much power rides on their ability to do this. Ever since the school shooting in Texas, we've been watching an entire country learn that it's not actually cops' job to save anyone or risk any danger, and the only reason they assumed otherwise was because of movies and TV shows. Idea for an action movie. The Rock needs to rescue his kid from an elementary school where there's an active shooter. But first he needs to fight his way through an army of cops trying to stop him. You end mass shootings in America by ceasing to have America serve as the hub of a globe-spanning empire that's held together by violence and nonstop mass media psyops. It's not impossible. It's not even difficult. It's just not an option anyone in charge would ever entertain.
That's ridiculous. What the hell does that even mean, Caitlin? You end mass shootings in America by ceasing to have America serve as the hub for a globe-spanning empire that's held together by violence and nonstop mass media psyops. How do you do that? Well, it sounds like you are almost saying America first. So if I stop it, you end mass shootings in America by ceasing to have America serve as the hub of a globe-spanning empire. Stop. That's America first, Caitlin. And you do mental gymnastics to avoid having to agree with the populist right. We can't stop violence held together by violence. How do you stop that? You can't stop that. That's just nature. That's human sin, nature. And some of it's not sin, it's just instincts. Nonstop mass media psyops. The media psyop is all against MAGA right now. So you say it's not impossible, it's not even difficult, and you've never presented a way forward out of this. And I ask, well, MAGA is the most powerful. And it's not that powerful, but it is growing. It's so much a concern that we've got all these different things that are going against it that I talk about every day on this channel. That's the number one political movement to get anywhere close to what Caitlin said in this paragraph. And where's the pro 2A? If you say in this paragraph, ever since the school shooting in Texas, we've been watching an entire country learn that it's not actually cops' jobs to save anyone or risk danger, and the only reason they assumed otherwise was because of movies and TV shows. Why isn't protecting the Second Amendment the next thing that comes out of your mouth? That's not a populist right stance. Pro 2A is just a populist stance. Obviously, guns in the hands of people is power with the people if you're a true populist, Caitlin. I'll continue here.
I'm finding myself having less and less patience with people who think the U.S. is an innocent little flower regarding the Ukraine war. It's like, come on, grow the fuck up.
You know who else agrees with that is Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doesn't agree with that. So you have to create a separation there. So you put Tucker's face on there as fake. Donald Trump just talked about that, about the funding to Ukraine. So do you agree with Donald Trump on that, Caitlin? You do mental gymnastics to avoid having to agree on certain topics where you agree on. And this is why I said, you're ultra-maga. Caitlin, you're ultra-maga. When Joe Biden says ultra-maga, you're included. It's not about Trump. Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, or libertarian. They would say Comic Dave Smith is ultra MAGA. They would say Robbie the Fire Bernstein is ultra MAGA. They're libertarians. They would say Rand Paul. Kim Iverson, guess what? You're ultra MAGA. Congratulations. Join the club. It will be fun. You'll feel better. Embrace it. I'll make a Kim Iverson branded ultra MAGA shirt for you. MAGA doesn't mean what it used to mean. Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. Nico House, one of my favorite YouTubers, and Fiorella and Pasta and peasant journalists, you too, you're not exempt. You're ultra MAGA. Will Cormier, you're ultra MAGA, friend of show. River, you're ultra-maga. Congratulations, whether you liked it or not. If you don't agree with the Disinformation Governance Board, you are ultra-maga, whether you like it or not. Welcome to the club. Embrace it. Have fun with it.
Friendly reminder that for a fraction of the cost of funding a world-threatening proxy war against Russia, the U.S. could simply have protected Zelensky from the neo-Nazi militias who were threatening to lynch him if he tried to make peace with Russia, and prevented this entire war. The airhead mainstream narrative that Ukrainian forces have been destroying Russian troops and humiliating Putin in epic win after epic win has become unsustainable. Here's a tweet from Bloomberg. Russian troops are making steady progress in Ukraine's east. That's sparking fears they could be poised for a bigger breakthrough. Here's from Reuters. Ukraine says troops may retreat from eastern region as Russia advances. And from the Washington Post, Ukrainian leaders project an image of military invulnerability against Russia, but commanders offer a more realistic portrait of the war where outgunned volunteers is described being abandoned by their military brass and facing certain death on the front. Another shout-out to all you big, brave sofa warriors who've been screaming that a negotiated peace settlement is unacceptable and helping the U.S. empire throw Ukrainian lives into the gears of a stupid proxy war for U.S. unipolar hegemony while you sit safe at home eating Doritos.
You know, you just did that in this article as well, Caitlin. You talked about police not being there to risk their lives for people. Right now, you're a big, brave sofa warrior screaming about the police, what they should have done. They should have put their belly in front of the barrel of an AR-15. And you're saying that they're not there to save us. You are also a big, brave sofa warrior if that's your take. And that goes to the populist right, too.
If you're more hawkish than Henry Kissinger, you're too fucking hawkish. Whenever I try to talk about the risk of the Ukraine war escalating into a nuclear holocaust, I get people telling me that if that happens, it will be Putin's fault. Like that would make it okay somehow. Like that would somehow validate all the steps our leaders took to get us to that point. Of all the intensely stupid ways team loyalty and partisanship can express itself, I don't think you could come up with one dumber than our nuclear brinkmanship isn't a problem because it'll be the other side who launches the first nuke, if you tried. Even pretending it's certain that Russia would be the one to initiate a nuclear exchange, would that thought actually comfort you when you feel the earth shake? Would you feel any better about the decisions which gave rise to that moment by telling yourself Putin started it? I mean, if there's any time where it doesn't matter who started it, it's when the mutual and destruction part of mutually assured destruction goes into action, yeah? I think at that point, all our dopey team sports cheering and booing pretty much goes out the window, no?
So I had some other interaction with people on the Caitlin Johnstone timeline, and I think a lot of it is this marketing discussion. So we have these dopey team sports cheering and booing. And I agree, that's this red bandana team and the blue bandana team. But marketing is a necessary evil. Most people aren't paying attention. How do you inspire people? Martin Luther King Jr. had marketing. Gandhi had marketing in their own ways. You can't reach people without marketing. How do you get your voice out there if you don't market it? And I'm trying to learn about it, something that, knowing where I'm at now, I would have really studied in school back in the day more and taken seriously. Marketing is very powerful. So right now you have the MAGA marketing. And that's why my attempt is to say, separate MAGA from Trump and you can be a part of it. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. And I'm still putting my thoughts together on Kushner. And I have a problem with Kushner. And if Donald Trump thinks that Kushner could be a part of his administration if he were to run again in 2024, I'm completely out on him. So I'm putting together my thoughts on that. My point is, I am associating myself with MAGA now, but I'm broadening that term, marketing-wise, to mean more than what it means when it meant Trump when it started. And it's bigger than Trump now. So you can be a part of it, Caitlin, and it's okay. It shouldn't trigger you. And you can say, hey, I disagree with MAGA on, I don't know, probably abortion. You disagree with MAGA on China, probably. But you agree with MAGA on Ukraine. I don't know how you could disagree with MAGA on 2A with your takes here, but I don't know. So the marketing is necessary, and the marketing is not the substance. So MAGA has more substance with votes in D.C. than the progressive left does. They have no substance. They actually have anti-substance. They're voting for this war. So it's okay. Tell people to get through the marketing. Tell people that, yes, the oligarchy will try to put fake populists out there, like AOC. But how do you judge them? By their voting record, to me, is the number one way. So there's a lot of people like, I was talking about Kathy Burnett. I don't know if she's real or not. We won't know until she had to vote. She didn't win, of course. Same with Dr. Oz. I'm not for Dr. Oz, but if he wins, I'm still not supporting him. I don't live in Pennsylvania, but we will judge him by how he votes. We know where Rand Paul stands on things because of how he votes.
Hollywood lies about what American journalists really do in the same way it lies about what American soldiers and police really do. And it has just as disruptive an effect on people's perception of reality. People who accuse you of having Kremlin loyalties when you question or criticize the U.S. empire are admitting that they don't care whether statements are true or false, only whether they demonstrate loyalty to our rulers.
So Caitlin Johnson has spoken out strongly against the Ukraine-Russian war. And I believe she was labeled as Russian content or something like that. I'm not sure, but there's some type of censorship thing that Caitlin is sensitive to. And the whole topic, basically, Caitlin brought up Uvalde just a little bit, but you're listening to the article if you're still hanging around, and it's all about Ukraine and who is more right on Ukraine in a line with Caitlin the MAGA. The whole article, substance-wise, is on Ukraine. But it starts out saying MAGA's fake. It doesn't even line up.
That's the lens through which they examine the world, and it's pure brain poison. How can people think lucid thoughts and engage in lucid discourse about ideas and events when they are continuously measured not by how truthful they are, but by what loyalties they appear to demonstrate? They cannot.
Caitlin has failed to acknowledge that when Donald Trump was off point on talking about the V for Vendettas that you would put in your shoulder with a syringe. When he was off point on that, the people booed him.
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine. My friend, Dr. Mehmet Oz, he's a great man.
When do the people boo Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez again? That's a sign that the people control him. That's the danger. When he's been off, he's gotten silenced, the Johnson & Johnson thing where he brought them down, got no love for that. And then a ton of flack on social media, which is the town square. That is a sign of a healthy relationship. Caitlin would never acknowledge that. Whether you agree with MAGA or not, that is a sign of a healthy relationship. When do people do that to Biden? Biden went to Buffalo and started talking about this race nonsense. Taking it, obviously the Buffalo shooter had racist stuff, but taking it to a bigger level than that and bringing up J6. If he would have done that in front of a different crowd, he should have got booed and would have got booed. But nobody dares do that because Biden controls them. That's not what happens. If Donald Trump brings up something that is off topic and doesn't resonate, he will get booed by those thousands of people he has in the stands with him at a rally. Caitlin would never acknowledge that truth. So there is no loyalty just to Trump, not with MAGA.
Empire loyalists have exactly two arguments. One, that foreign leader my government dislikes is comparable to Adolf Hitler. And two, if you object to what my virtuous government has planned for that leader, it means you love and support that leader. I honestly don't understand how anyone can stay abreast of the day-to-day depravity of the oligarchic empire without a daily practice geared toward inner peace. Things are so insane and confusing, and are only getting more so. You've got to have a regular discipline to form stability. Meditation, self-inquiry, healing, and energy practices, whatever gets you there. But surely you've got to have something before you can stare into the face of the beast continuously without going mad. I can't imagine looking at this thing every day without any kind of a practice.
That's the end of the article, and the article ends on a note of meditation to, for people like myself who follow this stuff very closely every day now, which I agree with. My main takeaway from the article is a fail. Caitlin Johnstone fails. She leads people astray. She's not being genuine. She's not empowering people. My message, my takeaway is, you do not have to agree with somebody 100% to support them over certain options. So, for example, if you did have a Marcel Dixon who supports reparations and has different, if he was going against Marjorie Taylor Greene, I would pick Marjorie Taylor Greene. But Marcel Dixon, the guy who's in South Carolina, going against Jim Clyburn, is going against Jim Clyburn. He's not going to win, but I would support him over Jim because he is, I think, a true populist and a true independent thinker. And Jim Clyburn obviously is the definition of establishment. So we have to think of these things differently if people are going to overtop the oligarchy. We can do it. We outnumber them, but we can't do this purity test that Caitlin's doing right now. The purity test is so pure that she agrees 100% on Ukraine with MAGA, but can't acknowledge it. You could even say, I agree with MAGA on this, even though I think they're fake opposition. Can't even bring herself to say that. That's the problem. Let me know what you think. Take care.